All right, hey guys, we got another minute till we can start, but I'm anxious. I'm excited. So I'm gonna hop on and just say hi to everybody. Quick introduction. My name is Dietzen. They call me the SketchUp guy, just because actually I called myself that in an email and it kind of stuck. That's how that all happened. But welcome to the SketchUp booth. Welcome to our SketchUp demo. This is our third demo of the day. We had Eric Schimmelfinny showed us some cabinet demos earlier using his extension sketch this to put in some cabinets, and then Tammy Cody got on and walked us through some very helpful tips in designing a bathroom. So it's awesome to see you all here. We're gonna just in a minute or so, we're gonna start and we're gonna take a look at layout. We're gonna hop in and I got about 20 minutes or so of some layout tips, especially starting layout. So if you already use layout, that's awesome. I have some tips that'll help you. If you haven't gotten all the way into layout, that's kind of the key for what we're looking at here. Assuming you kind of got some SketchUp chops, you know what you're doing with SketchUp and you're ready to take it to the next level, so you want to add layout to your repertoire. That's what we're shooting for. So welcome. People are still signing in. We will get started just a second here. I do have a question. Since KBIS is being a little funny, having some issues with our site, I'm just wondering how you guys got logged in or signed up for this. Was this through KBIS you found out? If you can throw that in the chat, that'd be awesome. So both Maya and Tamara are asking how to get a list of the sessions. The best way is to get them through the KBIS site where we have all of them listed. I'm not sure if we can get I'll see if we can find a way to get a direct link if the KBIS site is still down. It should be back up. So hopefully KBIS, by the time we get out of here, we'll walk out and the show floor will all be busy, abuzz, and running smoothly. So that's my theory. That's what I think is going to happen. I hope so. All right. Enough of talking about what could happen. Let's go do some actual stuff. All right. So I'm sorry if you did just join. My name is Aaron, and I'm just going to walk you through some layout stuff. So we're going to take a look at there we go. Some tips on how to get the most out of layout. So we have some stuff here. If you're just starting to use layout, we have some stuff there. But if you're actually already in there and want some ways to tweak your workflow, we'll cover some of that too. So I'm in layout right now. This slide that I was showing was made in layout. I'm going to hop over and we're going to start with a layout document. So this is a super simple layout document, but it touches all the pieces of layout that I want to look at. So it is 2 pages. You can see here on the front, I have this kind of 3/4 angled view, just a SketchUp model. It's not rendered, anything like that. It's pulled straight out of SketchUp. And then on the inside, I have a page here where I have a north wall, west wall of just a simple kitchen layout, and then an overhead view, got some dimensions and some text on there. This is the kind of information we're going to put together with layout. So layout's going to take those existing SketchUp files. So all these was pulled from a single SketchUp file and make that file into these readable 2D documents. So the first thing I want to touch on, and I'm operating from where a lot of people hop into layout. So a lot of people get into layout. They start by looking at, sorry, hold on one second. They start into layout and they kind of hit the wall kind of quick because they don't know exactly what they're doing, or they go in and lay stuff out and they don't dive all the way into it with the workflow or the proper way of getting these things done. So we're going to look at some of that. One of the first things I always recommend is get a good template made first. So I'm going to do something right now. I'm going to actually pull up the template that this layout document was created from. So I'm going to go to File and I'm going to hit New. And when I choose New, it's going to ask me, I have to use a template. You can't start with nothing in layout. You have to choose a template. So I have these defaults here. And I also have some over here under My Templates. My templates will be your templates on your computer, but they'll still be called My Templates. These are the ones that I have created and saved. So I'm going to look at this one called Kitchen Demo Template. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and we're just going to walk through this real quick. The concept of how to create a template, the way you want to go about creating a template is create a document first. So actually go in and make, you'll make a front page, make an interior page. You're going to make all the pages. And a lot of times I'll do it by actually pulling in a demo model and actually go in and put some dimensions on, put some text on, edit all that stuff, because what's going to happen is as you go in and put that information on there, you're going to change your presets, right? So if the first time you go in and draw a dimension line, you're going to set what's my text, what is the orientation of the numbers, what do I have slash marks or dots at the ends of the dimension line. You're going to set all that initially when you create the document. And then when you save that document as a template, it's going to get saved in. So next time you open that template, that's already set. So what a template comes down to is, so we're working from big to small. First thing we have is pages. So in mine, I have 2 pages. I have a cover page, and then I have an inside page. Really the big difference between these two is the title block that's on here. So see on my cover page, I have this bigger block down here, and then on the inside page, I have these smaller title block where just a little bit of basic information. The front page has things like the location and that kind of stuff, whereas the inside page is really just a call out what page is it, and then something that tells it it's part of this document. So that's a big thing. Super simple to set up. Set that up once. Don't be doing that every single time. Add it to your template so then when you create a document, it's just automatic. The other thing is layers. Layers, for whatever reason, don't get used as much in, a lot of people I see don't use layers as much as they should. I would recommend creating a handful of layers right in the template. It's going to make it so much easier to work within your layout document. So you see on this one, I have cover page text. So that's just that information that's just on the cover page. And then I have on every inside page, so a separate layer for this title block that's going to go on all the other pages that aren't cover pages. Separately from that then, I have a layer for text, dimensions, labels, masks, and models. And then as I create those different items, I'll set the appropriate layer to active and then drop them on there. So by doing that, it's going to make it a lot easier to organize your model and view your layout document as you start designing it. And again, if it's saved in the template, you don't have to set it up every time you create a new one. It's amazing to me how many times, and I say this, when I talk about people not using layout correctly, I'm probably talking about how I used it before I realized that I was not using it the right way. And I, for the longest time, would recreate layers every time rather than adding them to the template. The other thing, of course, is the rest of this stuff, dimension style, pattern fill, shape style. This stuff is all saved in the template. So whatever you have set up when you save the template is what's going to be used the next time you go and draw in layout. So my dimension styles are the way I want them in this template before I've done any editing. Again, a lot of people go and put their dimensions on, then select them all and change them. You can do that, or you can change it initially in the template. So, all right, that's enough talking about templates. Let's get in here and actually dive into this file. So I'm going to go ahead and close this untitled I just started, and we're going to go back to this one. So I created here this simple kitchen, like I said, real simple layout. So let's look at what this actually consists of, because one of the most important things with having a successful layout file is connecting it to a successful SketchUp file. And what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and we'll just hop over here, go into SketchUp. So here, this is SketchUp. This is that same view that was already here. Layout's getting better and better about letting you change your view of a SketchUp file, but I highly recommend that when you create your SketchUp file, one of the things you do is you create scenes for any view you're going to actually want in layout. So what do I mean by that? So this is that view from the front. I just called it 3/4. I know it's not a true 3/4 view, but I position my camera here. I set my lighting, my shadows the way I wanted them, the correct aspect ratio, and then I hit save this as a scene. So that means when I hop into layout, I can just grab that scene, put it on there, I'm done. I don't have to go in and orbit to try to get to the right view. One of the reasons that's really important is as you make changes to the model, you can jump back to the scenes the same every time. If you rely on, well, I opened it up and I orbited it, and then you make a change, it's going to be harder to get back to that view potentially. So scenes are really nice. Same thing here. I created my north and west wall. I created these with parallel projection. So I'm looking at just plan view style on these two sides. And then for the top-down views, I created a section plane. So I went in and I cut, I'm just going to spin this real quick. You can see I created a section plane. I turned the section plane off, so I'm not actually seeing it. So if I can come in here and actually go to Outliner, would be the easiest way. I could turn that section plane back on to see it. I turned it off because I don't want to actually see it in my layout file. But that was a top view. And then I created two top views just because I wanted to have options. Options are good. So I created them with two different styles. So one was a standard. This is the one I was working in. This is the normal view. And then I created one where I modified the style to monochrome. So it's the exact same model. Nothing's changed about it. It's just a different style, and then it's saved. Styles are the one, like probably the biggest thing that I always make sure that are set up, because you can do stuff like you can change your views. You can rotate the camera a little bit. You can move those kind of things. You can turn layers on and off in layout, but you can't change a style in layout unless it's already saved into the model. So you can only use your standard styles. You don't have the ability to go in and say flip to monochrome or change my profile widths or anything like that. That's not available in layout yet. So I did this because I wasn't sure what I was going to want to look at when I actually got in there. So I actually just saved it as two separate scenes. So now when I hop on over to layout, I can see that's what I created. Here is that 3/4 view, and on the inside page, I have three separate views, all keyed to those individual views that I created while I was over in SketchUp. So something else, if I look at some of this stuff, you'll notice that when I pick on one of these, not just the model lights up, but the dimensions light up, the text at the bottom lights up. What I did, so I talked about this before, I created these as part of the template. I had these layers turned on. So right now I put stuff on the appropriate page. So if I turn dimensions off, all my dimensions turn off. If I turn labels off, the labels at the bottom are going to disappear. So every item that is in layout is on its own layer. But what I did was for each drawing section, I grouped everything together. So this makes it real easy to come in here and say, okay, I want to slide this over a little bit. I don't have to come in here and do this thing where I go, okay, select, oops, selected too much. Go select, be real careful about how much I select. I can just pick right here, and this whole group is going to move around. So even though it's a group, stuff can still be on separate layers inside the group. If I want to edit, it's just an extra step of double clicking, and now I'm in that group. So now I can actually select the model or the dimension or that call out at the bottom. Something else I just want to call attention to is I created this separate layer right above the model layer. So model layer is where I actually put my models, bring them in. Right above that, called masks. One of the things that I run into a lot when I create my models is I create stuff that kind of falls outside of the plane of what I want to actually see when I create my output. And that is where masks come into play. So my masks are pretty simply, I'm going to double click into this group again, are just these little white boxes. So if I turn masks off, you'll see, okay, there's the geometry of the window that kind of punches out through the wall right there. I got the same thing over here on the side view. So see this view? Here's my window geometry coming out. So when I look at it from here, it's nice because I have a recession where that window is going to go. It's pushed back in. But when I look at it here, I have this little piece popping out. So masks, if I turn that on, is just a white box that I just slid up against the wall, and it just covers that. And because that layer is above the models layer, it covers up that geometry. So masking is good. People do a lot more with masking where they put frames and all kinds of stuff. I like to use, it's simple. I don't need this geometry, hide this geometry from my output. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited and starting to talk, which is what I tend to do, get excited and talk. It's kind of my job, so what I'm here for. But make sure, check my notes and not jumping over anything that's important that you guys want to hear, which I'm sure you do. All right, that's a lot of that is actually, I'm doing pretty good. By the way, if questions come up, you guys do want to pop it in the questions. Oh, thank you. Kathy put a link for the live sessions in there. Thank you very much, Kathy. If you guys do have specific questions I'm going through, or you have questions, other questions you want to ask, go ahead and throw those into the questions, and I'll try to make sure I leave some time at the end to answer those. All right, so a couple things that I want to point out for if you're good, you've got this template, you got this, but you want some tips for workflows, like how do I get the most out of actually working and drawing inside of working inside of Layout. I'll give you a couple of those. One is know about your snaps. So object snap and grid snap. By default, grid snap is turned on. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on grid snap real quick and just show you what this means. I'm gonna come in here. What grid snap is gonna do is it's going to make you snap to a predefined grid. So you can see as I'm moving this around how it's jumping like that. That can be okay in large strokes. So what I mean by large strokes is like if I have, I'm just putting in my documents, my original layout documents, or my SketchUp documents, I'm dropping them in and I just want to kind of put them on there. Once any kind of finesse comes along, I'm gonna Control Z a couple of times so I put that back where it was. So finesse items, I mean like this mask, right? So this little white box that I want to cover up. So I want this to butt up right against the wall of the line. And you can see because of my grid snap, it won't let me put it right where I want to flush up against the wall. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to turn grid snap off. And that's going to give me full motion. See, I can put this anywhere I want. And then that's where I can actually come in here and I can put it right where I need it to be. Kind of along with that idea is there is a nudge functionality inside of Layout. It's something that doesn't exist in SketchUp, and that's just the arrow keys. So if I'll turn on my key thing, and you can see I can actually nudge these things just by hitting the arrow key. It's just going to scoot it over a couple pixels each time. So if you do get into the point where you got something where almost where it needs to be, but you need to just scoot it over a little bit, hit those arrow keys, and that'll help you nudge those things and put them where they need to be. All right, something else, and you don't have to admit if this is you, but I know there's at least some of you out there who draw things in Layout over and over and over again. And this could be something simple like a box covering up a door because you don't want to see the living room on the other side of the door. You just want a solid thing there. Or maybe you have a shape you put in, something that represents like an overhead view of a table, or electrical callouts, or lighting locations, where you have 2D representations of things you drop on there and you draw them over and over again, or you draw them once and then you open that layout and copy it and then paste it into the other layout. I know who you are. I've seen you. I was you. Anytime you do anything like that, anytime you have geometry you want to take and put in and then you want to put it into another model later, that's what scrapbooks are. So scrapbooks, of course, they come automatically installed. And there's all kinds of good stuff in here, title blocks, but there's also geometry, arrows, tons of good stuff. They're also completely editable. So you can add anything you want into a scrapbook. All a scrapbook actually is an inside secret. A scrapbook is just a layout file. That's it. So like a template's also just a layout file. It's just set aside as called a template because it's put in a special folder. Same thing for scrapbooks. So what you can do is you can come into Layout, grab an empty layout document, draw the stuff that you want to keep, and then just save that document into your scrapbook. It's really that simple. When it's in there, then what you'll be able to do is anything that you created in that document, you'll be able to grab and drag on just like you can with the default scrapbooks. So any geometry you do over and over again, if you have DWG files or detail files you pull in constantly and you're always importing, import them once, save it as a scrapbook, and then that geometry can just be dragged and dropped just like that. So scrapbooks are awesome. It's really an underused, I think, functionality. A lot of people don't know how to get the most out of there. So check that out if you don't already use that. And then okay, this is probably the biggest one. This is the spot people struggle with the most, and that is around quality. So one of the things we hear about SketchUp or Layout a lot is, well, it's slow, it's clunky, it doesn't work fast enough, it takes forever to update. That's huge, and a lot of people say it, and a lot of people don't use it correctly. because it really all comes down to how you have it set up. I don't mean that in an offensive way. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm trying to teach. So roll with me. So right here, I'm gonna look at this document. Maybe we'll look down here. So if I pick a SketchUp model, so this is my modeling window. This is, if I zoom out, this is my view that I showed, that scene I called 3/4 view. If I look at it and I click on it, up here in my SketchUp model window, I'll close these other windows. So under SketchUp model, one of the most important things in here is right here. This is my render type. So in here, I have 3 options. I have raster, vector, and hybrid. So if I flip to raster, raster is basically a bitmap, right? So this is a screenshot of what my model looks like in SketchUp put on the screen. And it's not an attractive thing. You can see here I have all these jagged edges around curves. It's blurry if I zoom in. It doesn't look good, but it's fast. Re-rendering or updating a raster image takes a fraction of a second. So if I do anything to this, so if I come in here and I just change the edges of my model, look how quick it redraws that screen. So it's about half a second, right, to update that. If I change from raster to vector, so I'm gonna go ahead and click that, and you can already see, oh, I got the beach ball, so I know something's happening. Vector's gonna look a lot nicer because what it does is it actually draws vector-based lines over my SketchUp lines. One of the downsides, of course, is if I go with straight vector, I don't get any of my image files. So this tile backsplash I had in here was all an image. But since I turned on vector, it went away. The downside you just saw is that the redraw takes a few seconds because it's not just updating an image, it's actually going through and recalculating where every line's supposed to be and redrawing it on the screen. So it takes a few seconds to go through and redraw this image. The last one is hybrid. Hybrid is kind of the, as you all probably guessed it from the name already, you'll see my bitmap is gonna, or my images are gonna come back, and on top of the images, I still have the lines. So this is kind of the best of both because I can keep my textured images that I put on there, but it also creates those lines. It is just as, it does take time to redraw because it is still recalculating the lines. So if I do this, it is gonna take a couple seconds to redraw, but it is probably the best looking one. So here's the big thing with those. So a lot of times, some people will go and they'll switch their images to raster to work, and they'll just go do all their work and then manually go through and update everything to hybrid or vector for output. That's fine if that's what you want to do. The bigger thing is this little check mark right here, auto. If auto is turned on, that tells me anytime I do any change to this box right here, re-render it. That is what's the time-consuming part. By turning auto off, now if I come in here and I go, okay, I need to make this a little bit smaller, even though I still have it set to hybrid, see how it's not redrawing it? It's not giving me the best image. It's kind of shrinking it rather than cropping it, kind of. But I have representation of what's there. And as soon as I make a change, I get this little warning sign. This is an out-of-date data. And I have to manually come in and say, okay, go ahead and render it now. So if I want to do something like I just did, I want to edit the multiple sides. If auto is turned on, every time I move a side, it's going to re-render. Move the next side, re-render. Move the next side, re-render. So if I was pulling in the 4 sides, it would take 4 renders. By manually telling it when to render, I only have to do that once, and it's when I say so. So this is when I get to be the big, smart, pushy human user and not let the computer do what it wants, because I'm going to tell it, well, you're just going to render when I say you render. That is a huge, huge saver. So right there, see how I pulled it out, and now my lines are hanging over. Now I hit render. It's going to go through, take a couple seconds now just once, rather than as I moved each corner, and then give me my final drawing. That's huge. The other piece is if I come over here to document setup, and here under paper at the very bottom, I have this rendering resolution. So what resolution is it going to display on the screen? And then what resolution is it going to use for output? For output, I mean generating a file like a PDF or printing your output. This output resolution should always be set to high. You get the best possible resolution when you output. I can't think of a logical reason you would want to not set that to high. Display resolution, depending on your computer, how high-end your computer is, you may want to actually set this lower. Lower is going to be quicker, it's going to be lighter, you're going to get less detail in your screen, but it's going to be less demand on your computer to generate that. So a lot of times, you'll see this is the default setup. Display resolution set to low, output resolution set to high, auto render turned off on models. That's the optimal way to run layout. It's a couple extra clicks here and there, but it's going to save you a lot of time because you're not going to be constantly waiting for it to reprocess your data. All right, those are the big things that I wanted to cover. We do have a couple of questions, so I want to jump over to that. Dawn is asking, when do you group the drawings individually? So the way that I went through my workflow with this particular document was to bring in my 3 images. Then I dropped down my title block for each one. Then I went in and did my dimensions. Each of those, I was changing the active layer as I did it. And then after they were all drawn, then I did my grouping, select all that. Here, well, this is what it looked like then. I come in here, select all this, and then right click and make it a group at that point. So I actually went in and drew it first. You don't have to. You could actually, I think you can make a group of one thing. So if I have just this drawing, no, so I have to have at least 2 things. So I would have to come in here and maybe draw at least 1 dimension, or maybe just when I put my title blocks on there, that's enough to actually create that group. And then, like I said, from there on, just make sure you double click to enter the group if you want to work in that geometry at all. All right, I'm going to murder this name. It's got little dots above it, but I think it's Punt. Theo is asking, how can we set the exact format of the layout image? For example, 10 by 15. I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about scale drawings, that is a separate thing. So I come down here to scale drawing and make a scale drawing, and I set the scale. I don't think that's what you're asking though. If that wasn't the right answer, if I'm not answering that right, follow up with us either through the forum or reach out through the booth and we can get a better answer for you. I can't be on live. Can you send me a recording? These are being recorded as far as I know. I'm not sure how they'll be made available afterwards, but we are recording them. Sorry, you're not here to hear this answer, but everybody who is still here, yeah, we're recording these. So, okay, cool. Yeah, any other questions? That was the main things I wanted to get out there. I think that was just about everything. Yeah, that looks like that's the layouts. There's our events. Yeah, Aubrey, I'm not sure if you're still on or not, but where do we find the recordings of this? Or are we making the recordings available? I guess you can answer that in the chat. That would be awesome.
Sure, I can actually jump on here real quick. So we are recording these and they will need to be processed. And then we will probably upload them to YouTube or send them out directly through Zoom. So stay tuned. We'll get them to you in a day or 2.
Awesome. So yeah, sounds like if you're registered, you'll find them one way or another. Which is good, because it's hard to do stuff like this where you got about 20 minutes. Go ahead and give a whole bunch of tips. I know it's like drinking from the fire hose, but yeah, with that video, you'll be able to go through and hopefully step by step with that. All right, well, we're coming up right on 1 o'clock. So I think that's everything I got to say. I do want to say thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you for coming by. Hopefully the whole KBIS thing gets sorted and we have an awesome, fun virtual show. That'd be a lot more fun if we could hang out face to face and talk, but we do what we can with what we got here. So if you don't already know about it, we do have a handful of demos going on over at the GE booth throughout the day. So if you are enjoying SketchUp, you want some more of it, head by the GE booth and you can see they're doing those once an hour for the rest of the afternoon. So that'll be fun. And like I said, hopefully it gets working and you can come by, swing by the SketchUp booth, say hi, let us know if you have more questions. But that's it for now. Thank you guys very much for hanging out, and we'll be talking to you soon, hopefully.